September 24th, 2019. Please rise for an invocation by Mr. Neville.
I think it's hard for all of us to believe that yesterday was the first day of fall. A few weeks ago, we prayed for a smooth and successful opening, and thanks to the hard work of all of our parents, administrators, students, and especially our teachers, our prayers were answered. Now it's time to move into the heart of the school year with new challenges and opportunities, an exciting and productive learning opportunity for all. Let's take a moment and pray that this positive opening bodes well for our students and teachers for the remainder of the year. And just as a second thing, I just heard tonight on the way in that our town clerk, Susan Onicki's husband, died today. His name was Tom, and I'd ask you if you please keep her and her family in your prayers.
Amen.
Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag.
The pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America. Thank you, Mr. Neville. Fire evacuation notice. We have 2 exits from the chambers, one to the rear of the chamber and one to my left, your right, and a left out the back door to the parking lot. We have roll call, please.
Mrs. Hernandez, Mr. Neville,
Present.
Mr. Ryder,
Here.
Mr. Renier,
Here.
Mr. Rutledge,
Here.
Mrs. Riley,
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Here.
Chairman Cruzel.
Here. Board guests, Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do have a very special guest this evening. It's not often that we ask a retired teacher or coach to come in front of the entire board for recognition, but it's not often that we are saying congratulations to there's only one and only Cookie Brummage. So at this point, I'd like to ask our athletic director, Corey O'Connell, to come up. We wanted to make sure we gave Coach Brummage a proper send-off, even though her retirement is effective now. This was the first opportunity we had, and she just committed to me before the meeting that although she's not coaching, she will never go away.
Not sure what you say about someone who has dedicated 52 years to coaching. 52, yes, 52 years. I'm only 44, so it's kind of, it's mind-boggling that someone can do it, and not just do it to the height of your consistency, your dedication. You've had state champions, you've had All-Americans, All-State, All-Conference, and the true connection that you've made with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young athletes throughout the years. Even coming in here today, people come up to you and say, remember this story? Do you remember that story? Do you remember this story? I'm sure you get that all the time. I worked with you as a colleague for years when I coached Enfield High School, and then I had the pleasure of working with you for the past few years as athletic director. I know me, I will use you as the model coach, from commitment, like I said, to the expectations of your athletes. I truly cannot thank you enough for everything you showed me. And I know everyone sees the sweet, hi, honey, hi, sweetie, hi. Everyone sees that. But what I've seen over the last few years is that competitive fire, that, hi, sweetie, why don't we have the turf today? Type of thing. You always get the dedication trying to pull for your team. In every coach that I've spoken to, the assigner, I was just the field hockey assigner, the amount of respect that you have in this state is unparalleled. I can talk for hours about you, and I know other people would like to say some words, but on behalf of the Enfield community, thank you for 52 years of service, and obviously do not be a stranger, and we'll definitely miss you being around.
Oh, thank you, honey, for such kind words. Really, he's on top of the game here. He always had us outfitted to the tens, and we've got the program going strong. And thank you, Chris and Andy, Board of Education people, parents in the audience tonight. It's no secret. The only place I really ever wanted to teach and coach was in the town of Enfield. I said the other day that I lived across the river and I had a summer job that would take me down East Street in Suffield, and I'd look across the river and see our beautiful school on the hill. I said, oh, if I could ever get a job there, it'd be great. And fortunately, my path went that way, and it was my dream job from that day till today. And I will forever be grateful, and I won't be far away, and I'll still stick around and come and see all the athletic events and be thinking of all of you. And when you have to make tough decisions on things, and we'll all stick together. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Before you go, we're going to come out front and present you a gift. My turn to talk now. Well, I want to thank you. Come on, wake up. I want to thank you, and on behalf of the board, the administration, we present you this
Wow. Thank you.
for your 52 years of I don't know what to say. It was your service to this town, to the kids and to the town. And come watch the games. You can yell at the referees now, like you probably haven't yelled at the last 52 years. So.
Oh, this is priceless. I'll cherish this forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone else while we're... Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You've got work to do, so.
No. This is just as
Thank you.
important. So.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate
And
it.
the name looks great on the field, by the way. It does, and it's well deserved.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay. we'll
Thank
see
you.
guys later.
Thank you. Again, 6B, curriculum update. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As promised, we want to welcome our academic officer, Michelle Middleton, and our K-12 STEAM Math and Computer Education Coordinator, Dr. Carrie Wiley, for tonight's meeting. They're here to give a board an update on our 2019 spring assessment scores.
Welcome.
How are you?
Is the red light on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, I have to switch the inputs. I got taught this earlier. Let's see if I can do this right. Come on.
See it or not? Can you see it? Is it there?
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay.
It'll be there in a second. Okay, so thank you for having us this evening. And I obviously brought Carrie along because we were here in the wintertime discussing all the work that we were doing in mathematics. So we came to present we have a quick overview of the scores as well as some other things. Do you want to?
Okay. Do I have to move this?
No, I think you're okay. You have to move that though. Okay.
Okay. So last year, we created and began the implementation of the K-12 vision for teaching and learning mathematics. A huge step to facilitate this process was a restructure to include a K-12 mathematics coordinator, Mr. Jason LaMesa, and I'm excited to be able to share some of the great work that he started last year. Right away, he came forward and brought a vision to build a culture that celebrates mathematical thinking. To do so, he presented a common K-12 problem-solving process, and he also introduced a framework to help teachers start to structure their lessons. In addition, the district purchased an instructional resource to help bring some continuity to the students' experience from K through 6. And right from the start, Mr. LaMesa worked to communicate the K-12 vision to all stakeholders throughout the community and also in the schools. He met with all teachers as well as really anyone who has anything to do with mathematics throughout the year and continued to support them with these practices. And we also held many math nights in both the district and the school levels in order to support the families through this process as well.
Yep. So we've talked about this before. The way the state presents the scores is they lump things together 3 through 8. So this is Smarter Balance 3 through 8 for the past 5 years. We're on the left, state is on the right. We're pretty much, you'll see that we're pretty much kind of staying at the same level, 3 through 8. We went down a little bit, state went up a little bit. Nobody's really making big jumps right here. We have an action plan at the end for ELA, and you'll see kind of what we're putting in place for ELA there.
Okay, and so for math, after explaining all the work that we started last year, if you can notice right away, last year when we got the results back, we knew we needed to shift the focus. And I have to say, we have to thank all of our teachers for their work, because usually when you have so many changes and you introduce so many new things, to expect growth is unbelievable, really, and a lot of times you'll even see a decrease in scores. So I'm very proud to say that not only did we increase by 2.8 points, that's double what the state increased, even with all the changes that happened.
I just want to remind you before we look at SAT, the way it's reported out, a 3 or above. For ELA, you have to get the 480. That's the benchmark level to get a 3. For math, it's 530. And we've discussed before that the reason is that that College Board has said students getting that score on the SAT are more likely to be successful in their freshman year English and or math courses if they meet that benchmark. So that's why the scores aren't the same for the 2 subject areas. ELA, we are still slightly above the state, even though we had a little bit of a decrease there. We should note that it's not cohort to cohort, obviously, because it's 11th grade students, so it's one snapshot, but we are staying above the state level for ELA.
And for math, again, you can see from last year, we knew that we needed to shift our focus to math. And I'm really, really proud to say, if you see the 10-point increase that we made compared to the state only increased, I think it's less than a point, 0.7. All the work that was done last year, I think, is coming through, and we're hoping to continue that.
And that gap has definitely lessened between us and the state for SAT. It's less than 2 points at this point, so we're making good progress. So I talked about an action plan. We're in year 3 right now, entering year 3 of the writing workshop model at the K-5 level. We are also beginning it because we've seen progress. We are beginning it at the 6-8 level this year as well. So that involves professional development for teachers. They have the resources. We've been working on it. We started introducing it to 6-8 last year, and it's full implementation this year. And I will say that I got a report from Megan Burr that the middle school teachers are reporting that they're seeing a difference in the 6th and 7th grade students that are coming up, having had workshop for a couple of years. They're noticing more of a reading culture, which is fantastic. We also did a little bit more work around English courses at the high school and putting some hybrid units in that have book study and book clubs and full novels. And that was done at the request of the students. They liked the units we did last year so much that we had to add more. Another thing that we're doing is, this is our 2nd year of including grade 9, but we're now giving PSATs. They'll take them October 16th, I believe, in grades 9, 10, and 11. And that data is used, they set growth targets, and the coordinators are working with the teachers in English and math, and it's used to drive the instruction. We also have Khan Academy, we've talked about that before. They can link their accounts. So we're trying to use these resources that we have, especially Khan Academy, which is free, to help students kind of individualize instruction in the areas where they need some more support.
And that's also happening in math. But in addition to that, in order to continue the next steps to implement the K-12 vision, we are going to provide professional development, or continue to provide it, surrounding best practices for math instruction at all levels K-12. We're going to continue also giving PD for the utilization of instructional technology, like she just talked about as an example, to make sure we're differentiating and meeting all the needs of the students. And we're going to continue working to vertically align all K-12 instruction to make sure we have students that are motivated, confident, and have an appreciation for mathematics.
every year the College Board puts out an AP growth chart for a district, and it compares them 3 years before to 3 years later. So we had one last year. This is the one for this year, compares us to 2016. So in 2019, 20% of Enfield High School students took an AP course or exam. You can see the growth in the number of exams we gave in 2016. We were over 550 last year. AP exams at the high school. We had over 300 individual testers at the high school. And we had almost 300 students reach the score of 3 or above on AP. I do want to say, some of you are probably looking, saying, but we have 19 AP courses at the high school. The reason it says 18 here is last year AP French did not have enough of an interest to run. So we did have an AP course that didn't run. I also want to remind you that we did add the 2 10th grade AP courses last year. So these scores and testers include 10th grade students as well. So Learn Together, Grow Together Connecticut is a newly developed resource from the State Department of Education. It looks to kind of explore the common problems districts are having. You know, we have Accountability Index, and they look at things like chronic absenteeism, college career readiness, how many kids are taking AP courses, dual enrollment, things like that. So they're trying to come together and get resources for districts that are trying to solve these common problems. And they're going to do different issues and highlight different districts that are doing innovative things that have had some success in some of these areas of concern. So they just released the first version of it, the first edition of it today, and Enfield was one of the districts that was featured. So Carrie's going to click on this link. If you go to this link, it's because they're highlighting our college and career readiness, which is the kids taking AP and the kids in dual enrollment. So that is the UConn courses. It's also all the stuff we have going with is non-tuck. Anytime they get college credit, that's a dual enrollment. So if you click on that, and then you click on Enfield, you get this. You're going to see an eagle pop up. Can you scroll down a little bit? You get this great article, and it talks about everything from the block at the high school to the board support with paying for AP exams, to the career counselors and how they're making such a difference, and our students realizing what opportunities they have with these dual enrollment courses, to all of the partnerships that we have going with Nantucket. And you'll see 3M on there, because if you remember last year, we have that partnership with 3M now through Nantucket. And so they did a really nice article. I also have a paper copy for all of you. I gave to Kathy that you can take with you after, but I kind of wanted to put the link on there so people could see how to get there, because that's pretty impressive that we were one of the first districts that they reached out to. And that's all we have for you. Your turn.
Any questions? Mr. Renier?
Thank you. Last year, I had the benefit of seeing one of your workshops when you were rolling out the math things, and I appreciated that. The only downfall that I had that night, where I wish more parents had shown up, but I definitely think it's beneficial that not only are you educating the students, obviously, but that you're also informing the parents of the new rollout and the new ways in which you're teaching math now to students. I mean, I'm not that old, but the way that I did math now seems like I need a stone. But it's just great to see that you guys are rolling this out. It's also good to see that you're presenting the data sets here for us to see. I know it's always tough that when you put something up, you want it to be like 98%, we're doing awesome. But you know what? In order to get better, we have to admit that we're struggling in certain areas. And I applaud the district to acknowledge that publicly, because without that, we can't move forward if we don't know what we need to improve on. So thank you again for that. I'm just wondering in regards to math, because ELA is so much higher compared to the rest of the state, which is awesome. But for math, is there one singularity that seems to be standing out about why the numbers might be dipping? Is it the delivery? Is it the new Connecticut core? Is it any of those little nuances?
Math is lower overall for the state. If you notice, their high areas as well for both SAT and Smarter Balance are lower than where they are for ELA. They actually put together a commission when the Smarter Balance first came out on mathematics. I think Carrie can talk too. We talk a lot about the fact that grade 5 is kind of this switch to all of a sudden it's a lot and fast and a little difficult. And I think that that's a switch from where we used to be. If you look at state numbers, grades 3 and 4 tend to do better than 5, and middle school, is still struggling a little bit too statewide. If you break the numbers out, you'll notice that the middle school and the high school numbers are a little bit lower. I think it's something the whole state is trying to solve, but we're noticing grade 5 is an area where it was a really big shift for teachers.
So, given that information, are we looking at like grade 4 being like the make or break point for students, where either they're getting it, they're on track, and if they're not there yet, that they really need some like more intervention so they can prepare for the 5th grade?
I think that we're doing everything possible to try to identify where we need to do work. But I think one of the biggest steps that we're taking, that we're trying to bring forward, is really that vertical alignment. When I say K-12, it's having teachers understand the knowledge that students are coming up with so they can build off of that knowledge. I think if you look across the state and probably everywhere else in the nation, a lot of the times you can walk into a 9th grade class and they start off, okay, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, this is the coordinate plane. Believe it or not, they're doing that in 5th grade. So we need to make sure that, again, we're maximizing what we're doing and building off of the knowledge and raising the students to where they need to be.
And I knew some of that as well, but it's good to get that out there. In addition to, I'm fortunate enough where I have a student in the school system, so I was fortunate enough to get in the mail that 3 weeks ago that sheet that basically shows where your student is at and compared to the rest of the average. But it was nice to get that for 2 reasons. Number one, to see where your kid was at, because reading a report card doesn't really give you a whole bunch of detail. The information that the district provides to those who don't know is basically where your child is at in regards to testing through the years. And what's nice about it, and just a little nuance, is that it's in color. Because I swear, when things get sent home that's black and white, it's like they just copy this from someone else, and I don't even care if my name's on top of it. It's probably some scam thing. So the fact that it's in color kind of stands out, and it really shows you where your student is struggling or where your student is standing out. So I do appreciate that you guys have not only implemented this, but kind of put that in perspective to parents where your student's at. And moving forward, getting more information like that, I think it's going to be great. So I applaud you guys for the information that you're putting out and the help that you're giving to families.
And just even to add to what you're saying, another huge step that we're taking is every student gets a growth target. So we're making sure teachers are aware of that and making sure that they're working hard for each individual student to work towards that growth. So everything that you're saying, I think it's all connecting, and we're doing the best that we can.
Mr. Neville.
Just a couple of things. You mentioned that the state puts the scores in, that they're in groupings of grades, right?
You can go on EdSite and you can look up each individual grade.
Get each one.
Right, but when they do, they also give you the 3-8 as a grouping, and when they talk about their scores, that's what they release. So they didn't release their score it's on the website and everybody can get it. But when they talk publicly about the state going up or down, they do it in reference to that 3-8 clump.
It kind of puzzles me that they still do that. The other thing is that they don't always measure cohort.
Well, yeah.
And it's not apples to apples here,
Right.
okay? And it's, do the teachers have access to that?
We
kind of
look at
data?
that. Yes.
They have access to look at how their kids did?
They have access to how their kids did the year before. They can see what they can look and see how their last class did. The students sitting in front of them, Carrie actually puts together a spreadsheet, and they all know for the class that they currently have where the students scored the year before, what the growth target is, and where they should be scoring this year in order to make their growth target. They also know whether or not the student made that last year for their class. So they can look and see, the kids they had last year and whether or not they actually met the growth target, which helps instructionally,
Right.
like what worked, what didn't work. What interventions I put in place for Tim that made him grow that maybe I needed to put in for Michelle.
I think the other thing has to do with what we do with kids. how we get access to the data, what kids are making growth and who are not. I know you give that information, but also the fact that we just did this in 1 year, and you did all the training in 1 year when we introduced the math program. It's kind of hard to look at 1 year. What'd you say, we made 2 point something?
2.8
Yeah,
overall.
overall.
Every grade level went up in math except for one. 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 3 through 8 and 10 and 11, excuse me. Every grade level went up in math except one grade level dropped.
No, as you know, we're looking for that trend level that's going to happen.
Exactly.
1 year is not a trend, so
Right.
I'd be interested to see how they come out next year. But well done.
So will we.
Really pleased. I know you will, but I know how hard you're working, and it shows. So thank you very much.
I have Mr. Rutledge and Ms. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, one of the biggest things I'm taking from this is I love how you guys are actually using the data to drive the educational improvements. And that was actually one question I have. I noticed in there you said that we're now giving the PSATs to 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. Can you give an example of maybe something that's come out of that data that has driven a particular improvement?
I would honestly say I would credit part of that to the 10-point growth in math last year, to be honest with you. Jay was very much with his teachers working with that data. It breaks it down into the different sections of the assessment, and they set growth targets as well. So the College Board will tell you if the student's in 9th grade, here's where they need to be in 10th grade, here's where they need to be in 11th grade. And like I said, again, the link with Khan Academy, I feel like I'm plugging them, but I just am. It really does individualize the instruction. So the teachers can break that data down in so many different ways. They can look at where their kids need to get. They can also look at which sections and which questions they're struggling the most with. So it really, Jay did, and English worked with it as well. Deb did as well. So they're really getting their teachers used to looking at that data and what does it look like in the classroom.
So you're really getting at a very granular level then.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. No, thank you very much.
Yep.
Ms. LeBlanc.
I just want to add on the PSATs, I find it helpful for parents as well because they're starting to take it as a freshman, and it's helpful for the students because they're getting an idea of what they're eventually going to have to take instead of taking it cold. And it's a very intimidating test. College funds, getting into college can depend on that for some students. So I feel like if you can start taking it and get your feet wet in 9th grade, that's just like an added caveat to it, not for your data collection purposes.
That's one of the reasons too, to be honest with you. It's helpful for all students too.
Yes.
It really is.
Yep. So then I just had a couple things. So what we saw tonight was grades 3 through 8, you said?
The first two slides were grades 3 through 8, all lumped together, the SBAC. And then you also saw the grade 11 SAT.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess our first goal every year when you collect that is you want to see how we've improved as a district. And then
Right.
you compare it to the state growth and where we align with the state. Do you ever look at anybody else in our DIRC to see where we're aligning with them?
We do,
or-
yes, I do. We do, actually. Yep.
Okay.
I shared that with the curriculum subcommittee, so I
can
did,
get that
yes, we do.
information.
I look at that. Honestly, the first thing we look at is where, to be honest, we don't even, I know that's the first thing I share with you guys, but we look at where was the school last year, where was the grade level last year, and did the cohort of kids move?
Right.
So that's kind of what, because the scores come out for us first, then they go public. So we have the summer to work on those things, to come up with the action plan, and then we compare ourselves to the state. It's just, I didn't bring the DIRC information tonight. It gets a little
That's okay.
lengthy, but yes, we absolutely do that.
Okay. As an added caveat, I just want to mention too, I went to the back to school night at the high school last week. And my son happens to be taking geometry and algebra 2 to get more on the college course, to take pre-calc and calc. And so I was able to sit through 2 different math teachers back to school night. I think the introduction to the iPads is going to be wonderful for not just math, but any class. I know one of the teachers had mentioned she has even talked about videotaping one of her lessons. And then if a child is struggling, the parent can go back and watch it with their student, like you said, because sometimes how
great
we learned
idea.
is not what how they're learning. And YouTube has come in helpful a few times. So I'll be interested to see, how that takes off as far as our test scores and stuff. Also at the high school, many of the teachers from English to math always talk about how they prep the kids for SATs as young as freshman year. as far as math problems and vocab problems. So you're both here, and I figured I'd take the opportunity to say that it seems very exciting. They've implemented a tech test grade, which I think is A+ for keep students off their handheld devices. Which I was impressed with that. I was really impressed with that. But anyway, thank you guys very much, and I look forward to how we grow. Thank you.
Ms. Riley?
Yep. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing us the test scores and the data. We've been asking, for a while for those things, but it's good that we have them, and it's great that we've seen growth. And I want to thank you for identifying a problem, coming up with a plan, implementing the plan with teachers, parents, students. I think you guys did a great job with the rollout. I hear about it still at open house. I heard about it again this time. I heard about it last time. I'm sure I'll hear about it in teachers' conferences. I think you guys are doing a really great job, and I can't wait to see what the trend continues to be as it continues. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Well, it boils down to our slogan that we have, I can't remember what it is.
We make a difference.
We make a difference every child, every day, right?
Yep.
So it boils down to that, and we are making a difference. We are improving, and it's great to hear that. And God willing, we're all here next year. We'll be willing to hear it again next year.
Got it.
That will break some more records. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr.
Just one.
Dresnick.
Apologize, this goes against my new school year resolution of being quiet. But I want to say why Michelle and Carrie are here. I think they're being a little modest, and I don't know, having the pleasure of seeing it every day, it's very easy for, when results come out, for Andy and I to go down to Michelle's office and hear her trying to make sense out of data, knowing that the people are going to want to see it. But something that Carrie touched upon earlier was we re-envisioned what K-12 math education was going to be for our kids. That was really a 2-year goal or 2-year function. If you look back at the data, and it's out there now, this was a problem that we recognized 2 years ago. But having the conversation and the planning to come up with what the new structure would be, and then finding the right people, and then implementing it over a 2-year period of time, our expectations were not that we were going to see the amount of growth that we've seen in just 1 year. I'm saying all this now because I want them both to breathe. Over the last 2 years, if you've ever seen the movie A Beautiful Mind, that's when you walk into Carrie's office and see her and Jay with stuff all over the place, and that's how we know Andy and I just turn around and go back out the hallway. But I wanted to thank both of them because I know this was a priority, and I say 2 years, but that's when I was responsible for it. This has been a priority for us for quite some time, and to see the amount of growth that we've made, particularly in mathematics, is nothing short of remarkable. The other thing I think they're underselling is the last slide that was in the presentation, and I actually sent that out to all the board members this evening. But for those of you who are watching and not quite sure what Michelle was talking about a week ago, I was contacted by the Chief Performance Officer for the State Department of Education. And it was a Sunday night, about 10 o'clock, I got an email, and he said, Chris, we have certain indicators that, for the record, we haven't seen the results of the indicators yet, but this is the person who has them. He said, I'm seeing a lot of good things that are happening in Enfield, particularly around college and career readiness. Are you willing to talk to me next week? So Michelle, Andy, and I had a conversation with Ajit last Tuesday.
Yes.
And what was supposed to be a 15-minute conversation turned into an hour conversation. And I'm not making up words when he kept saying I'm inspired by what I'm hearing, and I can't believe all the great things that you're doing in Enfield. But you also heard the clicking of his keyboard going on. We had no idea going into the phone call that this was going to turn into what ultimately became essentially the first edition of a newsletter that I've got confirmation today that the state's going to try to do this on a more regular basis. But we were one of, I believe, 4 districts in all 169 communities in the state of Connecticut that the state sought us out to find out what the data is showing at the state level that something right is happening here. And that also goes as a credit to Michelle and Carrie and her team. And I know John Daig is not here, but a lot of those opportunities that kids have, particularly with College Connections and the dual enrollment programs that has John's John's fingerprints on it, excuse me. So I don't think we emphasized how big of a deal that is, because I've heard now in the last 2 hours from colleagues saying, how did you get on the list? And the answer is we have great people doing great things for kids. So I just wanted to make sure that while they were sitting here that they can actually take some credit that they definitely deserve. So thank you both for everything you've done. Now you can relax. Until next year.
Do you need to-
Are we all set? Thank you again. Number 7, superintendent's report.
Actually start with our student representative, and we have our new student representative here this evening. So Sierra, you get to go
Sierra
first.
Talicio, welcome to the board, and pull that mic up, push that red button, and speak away.
Okay. Okay. I don't want to be too loud. Girls and boys soccer had games today. Cross country and field hockey have been doing well. Fall sports are starting. They're off to a good start. Late last week, National Honor Society letters went out, and those are due back next Friday. The iPads started going out last week. They should be done going out at the end of this week. Next week is Spirit Week. We have pep rally on Friday. The football game is at 7 home against Manchester, and the homecoming dance will be this Saturday after the game, October 5th.
Excellent job.
That's
Thank
all
you.
I have.
And I extend this to all the student reps. If there's somewhere else you need to be, please feel free to get up at any time. But again, you're welcome to stay if you wish. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Oh. Well deserved. The amazing Lori Gates, the founder of Enfield Hoorah, continues to inspire our students each year by asking them to write and draw pictures thanking our first responders. I mentioned this at the last board meeting, and I didn't have official tallies, but enclosed in your packet are the directions, a letter to Chief Fox, and a few of the more than 1,345 cards that our students wrote for first responders and veterans in our town. Our students not only wrote an appreciation of current first responders, but some that gave their lives 18 years ago. Some of the letters were addressed to Congress urging healthcare reform for those affected today by their exposure to 9/11 toxicity. Ms. Gates plans to give those letters to Congressman Courtney, but I want to take the time to publicly thank Lori for her constant dedication to our first responders and our veterans, and share with the board and the public that once again our kids put over 1,000 cards and letters together for our first responders, and they should be commended for that. Tomorrow, the Stowe Early Learning Center will hold an open house at 5:30 p.m. You're invited to visit the Enfield Head Start program, Enfield Public Schools Integrated Pre-K program, the Enfield Public School Pre-K STEAM Academy, the Town of Enfield Child Development Center, the Town of Enfield Family Resource Center, and KITE, Key Initiatives to Early Education. Enclosed in your packet is a flyer about the open house. Board members are invited to attend the Tri-M Music Honor Society induction ceremony on Thursday, September 26th at 6:30 p.m. in the Enfield High Auditorium. Tri-M Music Honor Society recognizes exceptional music students in grades 6 through 12 that meet specific criteria. This year they'll be recognizing 18 new members, and enclosed in your packet is an invitation and a flyer for this event. This is a reminder that all Enfield Public School students will be released from school early on Wednesday, September 25th, tomorrow. Students will follow the early release schedule with lunch for our staff to attend planned professional development activities. And 2 items that are not on the report. One is an update. Some of you may have gotten the message with regards to the recent scare surrounding, I don't want to mispronounce the name of the disease, so I'm just going to say the mosquito-borne illness. I just want to state for those, and if you didn't have an opportunity to see the message, there was a confirmed case. It was not a human contact in South Windsor. My understanding is the state lab tests certain areas throughout the state, and there was a test that confirmed the existence of EEE in a mosquito. To best of my knowledge, up until prior to the board meeting, there's no human cases in the area. That said, once word got out, we immediately got in contact with our public health director from the North Central District Health Department, and we decided to make the decision that per the recommendation of the health department, to try to limit the amount of exposure between dusk and dawn that our students have. So we made the decision that all after school and outdoor activities will be concluding by 5:30 p.m., including athletic events, including, I know there's some band competitions at the high school that are due to take place this weekend in the evening. It's my understanding that as up to the last 5 minutes that several other districts are also following this precaution as well. I want to state, though, for parents, again, if we can control what we do here in Enfield, this is just a precaution. We do not have any information that there were any test positives here in Enfield. The closest was South Windsor. But that said, it was a recommendation that all surrounding towns in the area should follow these precautions, so we did do that. Because of that, as I said, we're limiting the amount of exposure for children, and actually for everyone, by not having these events after dusk. But for a reminder for parents that you still retain the right that if you choose to not have your child partake in an outdoor activity, you can remove your child from that. And that's particularly for students who are participating in events out of district. We don't necessarily have the right to tell another district if they want to enforce the precautions as we have. So in the event there's, for an example, a sporting event in a town that's not ours and it's an away game, and they're going to continue with an evening event, parents have the right to just inform their coaches that they're not comfortable with their son or daughter participating in that event. I will say, though, as the evening has progressed, more and more districts that we compete against are also following the same precautions. So I want to warn everyone at home who's, and I'm doing this at my home as well with 2 student athletes, when you pencil everything in the calendars and you set aside being Uber for the weekend and where you're bringing your kids, I'm going to apologize in advance. There's going to be some shifting of schedules because of this. Unfortunately, we're anticipating the first frost for this to no longer become an issue. But if you look at the next projected 7-day forecast, the lowest the temperature will reach, is what we're being told, is 47 degrees. Excuse me. So it's great to have warm weather. Unfortunately, the lack of frost is what's making this extended beyond what we had anticipated. So this precaution is going to stay in place until further notice. Once we get direction from the health department to lift it, we certainly will, but not until that. It's just not in a position at this point for us to take any chances with having students exposed. So I wanted to mention that on camera. And the last thing I wanted to mention, actually Sierra stole a little bit. There was 2 things. One was that the iPads were being distributed this week, so thank you for mentioning that. So you said it better than I can. I won't repeat it. And the last is, I'm sure that at least Mr. Crizel will mention this during his comments, but I'm going to steal them. Some of you may be aware that this morning the town hosted an economic development breakfast with some very special guests, including the governor. It was extremely well attended. I was humbled and honored that the town manager asked me to be part of it as well. It was really highlighting and focusing the partnerships that we have in town, not just with the business community, but amongst each other. And the great working relationship that not only that Chris and I have, but also that the board and the town council has exhibited over the last number of years, that really put us an opportunity to, as we like to say, start moving the needle on doing great things in town. We also had an unexpected guest that I was very pleased to announce, that our new Commissioner of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona, found some time in his day, actually was in the midst of traveling, but stopped here on his way to the airport to pop his head in and actually gave a few remarks before he had to leave. I'm going to say it now because he spilled the beans there, but Dr. Cardona and I are former classmates together as far back as middle school, so it was great not only to catch up with him, but just to reconfirm that the governor made an excellent decision in who our new state education commissioner is. So that will conclude the superintendent's report.
And for the record, Dr. Cardona did say that he sat in the front of the class and Dr. Cardona sat in the back of the class. So.
And as I said this morning, Mr. Crizel, I think he made part of that speech up because one of us became education commissioner and the other didn't.
Yes, but I think we got the better end of the stick anyway. So, any questions for the superintendent? Do we have any audiences? No audiences. So I declare audiences closed. Board member comments. Mr. Renier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't here last week, so I have a lot to make up for. First and foremost, I just wanted to let everyone know Hazardville Memorial School has a PTO meeting coming up October 9th in the library. All members of the Hazardville Memorial are welcome to attend. I wanted to just mention briefly about the Triple E. On my way back today, I was in a meeting, and I was thinking, I wonder if the school district's going to do something about Triple E. And then I got a call from Guy Barassa, like he was just reading my mind. It was amazing. So after that phone call, about 2 hours later, I got a call from some clubs for youth sports that because the school district decided to take that route, some youth club programs are also taking that route, and they are bumping up their schedules. So you guys definitely were a catalyst for the town and a lot of youth programs to also take the same schedule. In regards to the Stowe, I know there is a open house tomorrow. Also, I just wanted to congratulate everyone who was involved with the Stowe move in regards to all the programs they have in there. I've been there now for about 3 weeks with all the programs coming in and out, and they're making it work, and it's great. And I know in the beginning I was one of the biggest components about the concerns about fitting that many people in there, but they're making it work, safe, appropriate, and students are able to utilize the resources that are available to them, and it's coming together good, and I'm hearing good things from everyone who's involved with that school. So kudos to everyone in regards to that. Also, I wanted to let the administration know that I've also been hearing good things about the vice principal that we have now at the schools. Not only are teachers feeling supported, but even down to the students. Just having that extra authoritarian in the school, a lot of students are feeling safe and excited that there's an additional set of eyes on them, which is weird, but they're excited. So I just wanted to give credit where credit was due, bringing that into the fold as well. And also, something that's really interesting is every morning on Town Farm Road going onto Raffia, there was always a backup for JFK. Buses, cars, it was ridiculous. I thought I was in a twilight zone because the past 3 weeks, I get to the stop sign, I'm like, wait a second, I'm normally back at the church at this point. So I've noticed that the flow of traffic, there's a police officer there directing traffic as well, and whatever's happening over there, it's working because there's no backup in traffic. So I just wanted to give kudos to whoever, whatever changed, however that changed, but there's a lot of people in Southwood Acres that are appreciative for that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to whoever's idea it was or whatever's changed over there. The traffic is definitely flowing and nothing is backing up to the fact where actually the other day I saw the police officer as the student was running into school, half-heartedly smiling at her going. So everyone's on board. They're all ready to get to school on time for 7:48. So just glad to see that's going forward.
That is actually the work of Dr. Barrios and Police Sergeant Mayer in the traffic division, who came up with a plan for a new traffic flow at JFK over the summer and implemented it flawlessly. So all the credit goes to them.
It's perfect. So whatever they did, it worked. So
Again, our staff at work. Who's next? Mr. Ryder.
Good evening. Just a reminder to keep checking EnfieldPTO.com. Once again, there's a PTO website for all the schools from Stowe to Enfield High. I checked today, in the last 30 days, we've had 2,000 clicks. So if we have 5,200 students, that means about 40% of our, or more, of our population is looking at it, so we appreciate that. For Eli Whitney, just want to mention there's a few days left between now and September 30th. If you go into Stop and Shop and you purchase one of their reusable bags, which we all need now because you can't get bags without it, but $1 from every bag purchased goes to the Eli Whitney PTO now through the end of September, so still a few more days to take advantage of that. Also, the Eli Whitney, they kicked off their Cherrydale fundraiser on Monday with an assembly, had all the kids singing and dancing and hiding their fundraiser packets in the refrigerators of all the parents to open up the fridge and find a packet and ask the kids about that.
thanks, by the way.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
There's also a bug up on EnfieldPTO.com/Eli Whitney for tickets for an upcoming UConn game at Rensselaer Field. It's going to be on October 19th. The game time hasn't been decided yet. Most likely it'll be a 1 o'clock or a noon kickoff, so great time to take the family. Middle of the day. I also want to take a moment to thank the school district and the superintendent's office for implementing the school-based health center in our schools. I've heard a lot of great feedback from the K2 and 3-5 schools especially. That's more where I am. But to have like these counselors there in the buildings once a week or more, to have some behavioral specialists, to have somewhere where some kids to go, to have someone to talk to, the kids that need that. I know of a few kids just because I'm friends with the parents that are taking advantage of it, and it's great. And I just wanted to thank us for implementing that. And also to the PTO leads here in Enfield. We'll be meeting next week with the superintendent's office. We try to meet 2 or 3 times a year. So if you haven't seen that date, I'll be emailing everybody later this week with the invitation. And we hope to see you next Monday night. So thank you.
Put the control room on the spot. Can we put that website up again?
It was up there when you started.
You had your head
Thank
down. You
you.
didn't see it, so I wanted to make sure you got
I like
it.
that. So yeah, that's the address, and then it's just /Stowe or /HMS or /Eli Whitney. But if you go to there, you'll see that there's a page across the top for all the schools. So very
Thank
proud
you,
of that.
control room.
Thank you.
That's great.
Who's next? Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things. One, I just want to thank everybody who came out to the Enfield Annex this past weekend for the Outrun Addiction event. I know there were a lot of people there. There are some great organizations trying to do some good work against the opioid epidemic. So thank you to everybody who came out for that. And as a reminder, ERFC this weekend on Saturday is having their Dinner on the Green and also their Fall for Enfield event. I know they're looking for volunteers to help with that. And then at night, is a dinner right out there. They have some amazing programs there, and it's a fundraiser to help them as well. So if you want to come out, we hope to see you on the green this Saturday. Thank you.
Next Saturday.
Oh, I thought it was the 5th.
Yeah.
This Saturday's the 28th.
Yeah, it's a week and a half away.
Oh,
But they can bring a pack
It's okay. Yeah, you could camp out. You could camp out this Saturday and wait.
You'll be first in line.
Yeah. It's okay. It's good. It's good. Next. Mr. Neville.
I don't have anything comments. I'm trying to pick it up where Chris left off. My goal is to speak less, and so that's what I'll try to do. You failed this
We're
week.
keeping time. We're keeping time on that. Is that how it works? Ms. LeBlanc.
First, I would like to say she was here. She's gone. Congrats to Cookie. That's quite an accomplishment. And 52 years is a huge accomplishment, but the amount of students and athletes she had, that she touched their lives, I almost envy her to be able to have been able to do that, because coaches become a part of your family and a part of your life, even if you only have them for 4 years. And I just think she is a wonderful person, and I'm happy to see the field named after her, and she deserved it. I'd like to welcome Sierra to our meetings. I hope we get to see you a lot. I think you're sharing the spot with Madison. Yeah, so always keep us up to date. Steal Chris's thunder anytime. There's a JFK PTO meeting October 1st at 6:30 in the library. I mentioned it before with Michelle, but the Enfield High open house last week, I thought was amazing. I felt the teachers' enthusiasms for the iPads, the buzz around the school, the Career Center people were there, the guidance counselors were there. I just left there feeling energized and looking forward to the school year. Every teacher has Eagle A or Eagle B open for students to go to for extra help. The iPads, you just walk in there and you listen to the teachers and you feel like they just want every student to succeed the best way that they can. And they try really hard. And I give them a lot of credit. So kudos to Enfield High. Ms. Clark, the deans, the vice principals. It was a really good night. I learned a lot. I'm looking forward to see what the school year has to offer with the iPads, the different ideas they're coming up with, like filming the lessons, if they think the students might be a little bit challenged on it, so they can go back and watch it and even have a tutor or a parent watch it with them. I thought that was an absolutely fabulous idea. our iPad came home this week. He seems pretty excited about it. The teachers have made it clear that they can control and shut you off from wherever they are. Yes, they can see what each student is doing on their iPad, and they can immediately shut you right down. So, again, I have to say I like the idea of a tech grade, and every student starts out with 100, and it's up to you if you want to keep the 100. And you keep the 100 by not getting on your phone in class when you're not supposed to. And I thought, personally, I hate to say it, I've gotten the student uses mobile device too often in class or affects grade. There's an actual
Comment for that?
there's a comment for that. Not with this one, but in prior years. So I think that's a fabulous idea. I know they do use their phones. They won't need to anymore as far as like looking things up. But I love that implementation too. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Blank. Go ahead, Mr. Ryder, one more.
I just had a question for the superintendent through the chair. So how many students does each teacher have to monitor for the iPads, to Tina's point?
At the high school?
At the high school?
Well, however many classes they teach, times however many kids are in that class.
Oh, just when they're in class?
Yes.
Gotcha.
But I don't think.
I just didn't know how it worked.
Yeah, I think there's from what I understand from the presentation, the kids aren't really, it's not carte blanche on the.
No, it's pretty tight controls on what the kids can even access outside of the building.
I just didn't know if the poor teachers had to monitor like 100 students 24/7.
No, they can control what the kids are doing while they're in the class with them.
Somebody's not paying attention.
Someone's playing Pac-Man? Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else? So my turn?
Your turn.
All right, so I will announce this again, like I did last week or 2 weeks ago. The 4th Annual Miller Farms Charity Pasta Dinner. All proceeds to benefit ShopRite partners in caring to provide food and support to local food banks in our community. It is this Friday, September 27th, at the Mount Carmel Club, 93 Park Avenue, Enfield. The time is between 4:30 and 8:30. Tickets are $10 adults, $5 kids, 4 to 12, and free for kids under 3. You can purchase in advance at ShopRite or at the door, and cash and credit is accepted. So get out and support that this Friday. And I was present this morning at the economic breakfast with the guest speaker, the governor, and the mayor that shouldn't quit his day job, which I told him that. He had some comic relief that just, whatever. It fell flat, exactly. And, but it was a great event. It was a full room. The room over at Asnuntuck is beautiful venue for that. And we had the culinary students from the high school did breakfast for us. It was delicious as always. We had the string quartet playing from the high school. They did an awesome job, and the governor came and had a speech and got well receptive, gave him standing ovations. So we made Enfield proud, I believe, and again, we're working with the council and the board and what we've done, and we've highlighted the Stowe Early Learning Center with the Head Start and the EEL Academy, and we're just going up from here. It's just to continue. So great job by everybody, and I will say that's it for now. Mr. Neville.
Just ditto your comment about the pasta dinner. My wife and I helped out with that, and the Miller family does that.
Yes, they do.
They're unbelievably gracious, and they put on a good show, and the food's excellent as well. So.
The Miller family supports this town very much, so whatever we could do to.
They're unbelievable.
The little give back, for $10 to get a pasta dinner, that's nothing. And all the proceeds go to. So, anyone else? Last call? No? So we'll move on to, where are we? Number 10, unfinished business. I need a motion to remove from the table.
So moved.
Or put on the table, I should say. Moved by Mr.
No, I believe it's removed.
Hold on, I have it written here. Yeah. Motion by Mr. Rutledge.
Second.
Second by Ms. Riley. All in favor? We have seven, right? Yes, seven. So I would like to make a motion, and I really do, I want to appoint Marie Pisner as the Joint Facility Committee elector. So I make the motion to appoint Marie Pisner. And do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Riley. Do I have a motion to close nominations? Moved by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Ms. Riley. All in, hand vote for closing nominations? There's 7. I believe Marie will make a great addition to this committee. She's on the Economic Development Committee now, so she'll bring that piece into our committee, information from that committee, so we can communicate together. And, lack of last meeting, we didn't have a quorum, so just one more person would help in that. So, any other discussion before we vote? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Neville?
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have much knowledge at all. And you and I have chatted about this, and I just feel uncomfortable voting yea or nay on that basis, so I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Ryder?
I abstain as well.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
No.
Chairman Cruzel?
Yes.
So, what do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion passes.
Thank you. New business, we have none. Board committee reports, curriculum.
You just heard tonight the results of our last meeting, of which you were in attendance, Mr. Chairman. Mainly, we've asked them to come to more meetings and inform the board and the public of the things that are going on. I think, as you've heard, and I think we probably all agree, some exciting things are going. Somebody up here just talked about, you identified a problem, and you put it together and you came up with a solution, and that's what we're looking for. We all understand that there's 1 year doesn't make a trend. We're looking for that trend to change. We also are looking for the knowledge that they gain by getting to that granular level that you talked about, and saying what worked, what didn't work, and then let's attack what didn't work and find a different way to do it. And that was the approach that they gave us when they talked to us about bringing in this new math program. So I think they're doing a wonderful job, and I think they're too reticent about singing their own praises, but that's who they are. They don't do that. So I commend them for the work that they've done. We have another meeting coming up, and it's supposed to be listed as the 10th, but that's a Thursday, which gets in the way for all the other meetings that we have on Thursday. So I invite you to come. If anybody wants to come. It's probably going to be on the 9th, Wednesday, which is an easier time for a meeting. So that being said, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Neville. Finance, Ms. Riley.
All right, so the last meeting we had was canceled. Our next meeting is on October 21st at 6 o'clock.
Thank you. Policy, Mr. Renier.
Yeah, so the calendar year hasn't been too favorable for policy. There's been a couple of meetings we had to cancel because we had to do special meetings for various reasons, some weather-related items. The last meeting, we were in the midst of a tornado, so it got really touch and go, so we had to cancel that meeting right away because I didn't want anyone driving the horrible weather that was out there. Mr. Longy brought all the tornadoes back from the Cape Cod, so I appreciate that. Thank you. So we had to cancel that meeting. With that being said, and I talked to my policy meeting prior to this meeting, to that cancel meeting, is I don't feel comfortable going forward with next month's meeting for the various reason that I don't want the policy committee coming up with policies that a new board would have to vote on. I don't think that's appropriate, nor nor good for the town. So we are going to cancel next meeting, and whoever takes over policy after that, God bless you. You got the 5,000s, the 6,000s, the 8,000s to go over. But I think there's some things that the policy committee will look at going forward. Some policies that need to be updated through the state. Obviously, if something comes up that we have to approve because the state says we do, we'll call an emergency meeting. We'll meet if need be. But again, it's not appropriate for us to create policies for a new board to have to approve or not approve and be part of. So, with that being said, it was a pleasure being the chairman for the policy committee for the past 3 years, Mr. Chairman, and signing off the policy.
Well, I want to commend the 3 Rs, because that's what they are, the 3 Rs, and a enormous task of going through all our policies, and we're about more than halfway there, so it was a great job you did, and thank you for all that hard work.
3 R's in the L.
Oh, 3 R's and an L. Okay, yes, we got to remember the L. Mr. Neville.
Even though,
Moving on to football season.
Mr. Neville has the floor. Hold on.
Mr. Renier, even though it's not as much fun as curriculum, I think you did a wonderful job, a commendable job dealing with the.
Thank you. Oh, we got rowdy. Don't you forget.
Sorry, I
the
missed
3
it.
of us. Woof. We had to be warned when there were kids in the room. No, it was.
R's added another R.
It was
so.
good. No, it was a good time, and the work that that Mr. Riley and Mr. Rutledge did. Mr. Riley, Mr. It's like graduation all over again. Mr. Ryder and Mr. Rutledge had done. Definitely beneficial to the committee and their insight on everything. It was a good core group of individuals. So whoever's coming on next is probably going to be like subpar, but we had a really good group. So congratulations.
Thank you. Leadership, we have none. Joint facilities couldn't meet last week because we didn't have a quorum. JFK, we haven't said it yet because Donna's been away, so I think she's coming back today or tomorrow, but we have not set a meeting yet. JFK meeting was canceled this Thursday, so I have an empty Thursday, believe it or not. That's our first. Joint security is not meeting until
We're meeting next month.
next month. Any other committees, insurance?
Insurance is meeting Tuesday, October 8th at 4:30 in the Enfield room.
Okay. Number 13, approval of regular Board of Ed meeting minutes, September 10th, 2019.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Neville, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion, changes, comments? All in favor? Any, one abstention. 6 in favor, 1 abstention. 14, approval of accounts and payroll.
We have none.
15, correspondence and communications.
There is none.
There was just one card that I gave to Kathy from the presentation we had last weekend, a thank you card for letting her come up, so she's going to forward a copy of that to all of us. Number 16, we have an executive session. So we need to go to executive session for matter related to personnel, collective bargaining, and attorney-client privilege. Moved by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Mr. Neville. All in favor? And we will not be returning to TV, so thank you and good night.